After I had my first daughter, I couldn't pick her up. So I was 36 and my hands wouldn't work. And that's when, I started the journey to get diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. I didn't have the markers for rheumatoid. So then as a dietitian, I know what to eat. So I started to pull all the gluten-free breads and things in that nature. And, I'd have a little bit and it didn't really get better.
All right, welcome back to Carnivore Granny Chats. Today we have Carrie with Carnivore Confidence, and she's going to tell us her story and everything she has to offer to our carnivore community. Welcome, Carrie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Janice. And I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're
I
here.
love your stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Super good.
So, Carrie, tell us a little bit about your carnivore journey and how you got to your beautiful, healthy self today.
So I'm a registered dietitian by trade. So I started in the nutrition field back in the late 1990s. And I kind of didn't know where to take things with my studies. So I decided to go into nutrition. And this is part of my story because when you're learning all of these things for so long, I actually went on for a master's with that in and out of healthcare institutions and internships as well. You just start to go with that way. So I always thought I was a little different and had these different thoughts like, well, that doesn't make sense. When I was in college, I was more on the low carb because I noticed when I ate carbs, I got really bloated. And, when you're in college, looks are important, more important than the studies sometimes. So I was always kind of a little bit on the different and thinking outside the box than what the book said, because, that's kind of when a lot of pharmaceuticals and all of that got involved in really pushing dietary guidelines. And I got to witness, the food guide pyramid becoming my plate. And I was always thinking to myself, well, this isn't really a good teaching tool. So, I did great in school. And actually, I wrote a thesis on 3 to 5-year-olds on how to get them to eat fruits and vegetables. Okay. So we used a kid lab at the university and we actually played with them. And I'm like, well, that didn't work. But, you still write up the research because you did it. And I think that's a lot of my point is, I became a little bit naive to where these research studies were coming from. So anyway, fast forward, I was still always like, well, the kids didn't really, I did a whole lit review on these children and it just didn't make sense. So that really says a lot about where I kind of went for fast forward, 15 years later, and I'm working in healthcare and dialysis clinics and still preaching the same things that we learned. But personally, I would consider myself pretty low carb since I was in my 20s. I didn't really tell a whole lot of people because I thought I was a little weird, chalk it up. Sometimes my family thinks something's wrong if you're not eating the French fries and things in that nature. So I would say I started down the keto path, and meaning after I had my first daughter, I couldn't pick her up. So I was 36 and my hands wouldn't work. And that's when, I started the journey to get diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. I didn't have the markers for rheumatoid. So then as a dietitian, I know what to eat. So I started to pull all the gluten-free breads and things in that nature. And, I'd have a little bit and it didn't really get better, but I've always been one that wanted to stay off of medication because for me, that was important. I mean, how could I be a dietitian and take all this medication? I can fix this with nutrition. Well, it really wasn't getting better. And I went on to, have a second child and I got really depressed. So I'd say around COVID, she was a COVID baby, and, we're so isolated, not taking care of yourself. And I just thought, there's got to be a different way. There's got to be a different way. And I kept going down the keto path, and it did get better. It did get better because you're removing a lot of the sugars, which I wasn't big on. And now I've got these other breads, but I really wasn't eating a ton of meat because I can't. That's not good for me. It's not on, the bottom of the food pyramid. And I still struggled with a lot of bloat, and like my microbiome was just horrible. Um, After all of that, and now I'm 40, having a second child, and that's, late in life, but I felt like I can do this. So it's funny. I actually got a text. We recently had moved to Texas in 22, and I got a text from my nanny's friend that said, "What do you know about keto? Can you take a call?" And I said, "Oh, I live and breathe it." I was pretty well versed in keto, and had gotten my husband on board with it. And she had shared the Plant Free MD with me. And, I had heard about carnivore. And, when you hear about this doctor that's only eating meat and salt, from what I learned for 6 years in college, it was like, that's crazy. Where's the vegetables and the fruit? And, I get a little bit emotional about this because I spent 20 years of my life teaching people the wrong way. But, I'm okay with it because I'm dedicating the next 20 to help whoever and whomever I can understand, what I know now. And I'm not, I always say, don't close the door on the past, right? Because I'm not shamed from some of the science. So understanding metabolism, I even taught nutritional biochemistry. That does help kind of confidence, like, because I didn't have it until I started to dig into the research and listen to you guys. I mean, people who are putting out these shows and writing books, and it really just, the more information we can get out there. So I am happy to say I did do a CRP. So I've been carnivore for like pretty hardcore carnivore for the last 9 months. I started the journey last May in 2024 of really digging and buying the meat, buying the eggs. I'd say I used to say I can't tolerate eggs. And for someone who lived on them for a while and then I couldn't tolerate them, it wasn't the eggs. It was all these vegetables. And I had that because vegetables, I do assume that I have leaky gut, like just from the symptoms, or had it. And if anyone has questions about that, you or myself can help answer those. But carnivore has changed my life. I believe it saved my life in more ways than one, both physically. I have young kids. I have an 8 and a 4-year-old, and 2 dogs and 13 chickens now. So I have the most wonderful energy. I don't have, the hands swollen anymore. My entire body feels great. And the stomach, I mean, my stomach, it's the first time I can see abs because I'm not bloated, like, or my gut's not super inflamed. I do want to just share one thing with you, Janice. So another thing, so part of my vision is to help people with some confidence to switch over, to just give it a try. Because if you can go a couple days and then you're like, why don't this happened? Or, some of us that have experienced that, finding the research to help people walk into the physician's office who's telling them that that's crazy. I do believe a lot of physicians are jumping on board with this, and I'm happy to hear that. I have about 7 people I'm assisting with, just local here right now, who are getting off their medications not because I'm telling them to, but I've worked with 1,000 physicians in my lifetime so far. I kind of have that language that you can kind of walk in and say, well, here's what I found. These are the markers. So I would like to be able to assist people to just sort of let go and be free from a lot of medication, and shouldn't have to go to well visits for children. You do, but I won't go down that pathway. Sorry, I'm getting a little off task. But so I wanted to share, I was recently, and this is just in the past 3 months, um, I have elongated styloids. So I gave carnivore a try, and it helped with all of my inflammation everywhere except for in my neck. And I was like, this is really, really strange. And I've always had neck issues and ear drainage issues. And this has probably nothing, it does have to do with carnivore because I eliminated, I'm feeling better, and there's still something wrong. I've I had a CT scan for this same thing back in 2019 in an MRI, and I've been to countless ENTs, ear, nose, and throat, and everyone just said I was okay, getting scoped and things in that nature. So I said, this is crazy. I've fixed a lot of my inflammation. Why is my neck still hurting? So I Googled, you know, I don't praise Google, but I was like, neck issues, and I have a lump in my tonsil. So fast forward, I went to a new ENT, they scoped, nothing wrong, said I was thin, and my spine was sticking into my throat. And I'm like, no, not, that can't be. Yeah. So I just started to do my own research, and I found this thing called Eagle syndrome. So it's elongated styloids, but it can create so much inflammation. I do believe when I'm on it, like on point, and I say on point with, getting my enough fat and protein, my pain is not there, but it does come back because I have these bones in my neck. But I just want people to know that it took me dozens of physicians, and there's a big support group on this to get this diagnosis. I had to walk into a dentist and say, take an x-ray, we're going to see this. And then I've recently had some other imaging done, which is the only way to do this. But I'll keep you posted, Janice, on my journey. I'm just doing some myofascial release because I don't think that surgery is needed. I think there's other holistic ways, and carnivore has helped me tremendously on this. So having the confidence to walk in and be your own advocate to the physicians is so important. So having had both journeys and been working with a lot of physicians, I feel like you just need a little bit of hand holding first to have the confidence in yourself that you're the only person that can determine how you feel. So that's a little bit.
That's amazing. What a story.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. That was amazing. Yeah. So with your neck, does that affect your hearing or your ringing in your ears or anything with the
Not
drain?
really. I don't know. Let me just be honest. I'm not one to go to doctors too often. So I believe I can hear. Sometimes I choose not to hear things. It's to add on, and a carnivore has improved everything 85 to 90%. There's just still some inflammation and pain. So it's like right under here. But, having just done a little bit of research into this syndrome, it's very misdiagnosed, and people suffer for years, 20 years. I just met a woman, she chose to do surgery. I mean, they can get pretty long, and they push a little bit on the vagus nerve too, which controls stomach emptying. So carnivore has helped me a lot with that. So if it's affecting the vagus nerve and like how well your stomach empties, it's probably, but I'd say since going carnivore, I have minimal issues with that. I mean, I couldn't eat and go out. I'd have to eat and walk around with my belly like I'm pregnant or something. So, and I just always thought it was in my head, and it's not. There's so much that has healed through carnivore for me.
Yeah.
The mental clarity, the confidence. Because when you first start out, you're like, this is crazy. And everyone says that to me, you're telling me as a dietitian that I can only eat meat, and I was just helping a woman like understand that it's okay to have sticks of butter. Um, and I didn't believe that until I tried it. I would be honest, like it made sense to me, but until you actually witness the health benefits and just overall feeling, it's amazing. My 4-year-old now asks for butter instead of candy. So good stuff. Transition. And, I'll say it, some people want to go slow, some people want to dive right in. It seems to me like the men like to dive right in and just go, but it does, I would say, give yourself 90 days to work with someone to gain the confidence until you decide that it doesn't work. So that's kind of my vision is, not that 90 on the 90th day, you're going to know, just give it some time. And I think you would probably agree, Denise.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we dove in, but I don't recommend diving in for everybody. It's
Yeah. I'll add too, I've always tried every single thing that comes out, like vegan, vegetarian, and carnivore has been the longest one. A keto, I would say, and carnivore. I was keto for a long, long time before, and still just wasn't enough, for what my body was doing. And then when I really started to research and listen to people, I mean, that's what I think us as healthcare professionals don't do is we don't listen to our patients anymore. And I remember reading a book, and it was early on in my career, and it was called Every Patient Tells a Story. I even forget who wrote it. It's probably somewhere packed in a box somewhere, but it was written by a resident physician. And he just noticed that doctors weren't taking time anymore. And they're not, what everyone needs to understand is they're really not able to, depending on who they work for. So and then we come out with electronic medical records. So you're basically talking to the physician through the computer, and they're clicking the boxes on protocols. And I'm not downing physicians. It's not their fault. This is like what we've become. So that book 20 some years ago was saying like, we need to, if I would listen to my patient for at least 15 minutes, I wouldn't need to go and read thousands and thousands of medical like history, just listen. So I think listening to people has been my strength. I never thought I would help. I always had a policy. It was no family and friends. I don't do weight loss. I don't do diabetes. I don't do this. I chose the route to go feed people through tubes in a hospital who probably, if they would have changed what they were eating, wouldn't have ended up on those tubes in the first place. And then we're shoving all this junk down their tubes. So that's another one. But now I'm like, I want to tell everyone because I'm confident in the information that I have. I was never guided in the right direction. So that's another ramble from me.
no, you're all good. Yeah, it's there's I had so many ideas in that. But the I'm thinking about hospitals and the hospital food and the junk in that they're giving people that are sick and not healing them.
I
But
just taught it.
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm reaching the end of my teaching assignment, and they're still doing exchanges in carbohydrate counting. So you can have 4 syrups if it fits into your meal plan. And it's very electronic. I'm not sure how, but one day I hope I can get involved in the menu planning in the hospital. For me, it was hard because we were under these regulations. So I'll just say it, like hospitals are under regulatory agencies that come in and look and make sure that you're feeding them according to guidelines. So you can decline, but like for instance, if you just wanted to eat out, now it's easier with like room service style dining, but I spent many years in helping program all of the wonderful therapeutic diets. There were 146 different diet orders at the one place. We scaled it down to 72 diets. So that brings me to a good point. Like you want to jump on carnivore, for life, it's pretty easy. You don't need a dietitian. All you need is the confidence and the information, and people to reach out to, like coaches like yourself, like accountability coaches. Sometimes like there could be a roadblock, such as like a family member telling you you're crazy, and you're like, well, maybe I am, but I'm going to reach out to this person and say, how do I deal with this situation? So I think the more people out there to be of support, like you
Oh, like
writing
you,
those books.
oh,
Yeah.
you've been like support for me. And I think you don't have to be on carnivore years and years and years to be support for somebody. I think just having that in common, 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. You can have that support, for each other. And just because you're on carnivore for 5, 10 years doesn't mean you're not going to have some struggles,
Yeah.
especially with other people and their opinions, and having that. I know the carnivore community for me has been wonderful. They're so welcoming and loving, and it's just, it's, I don't know, it's just like almost bliss, when you're talking to somebody who's carnivore, because you just understand each other, and it's like a sisterhood or a brotherhood. You've come to the realization that the food that you've been sold in the grocery store is toxic poison. And once you get back to your ancestral ways, magical things happen and your body heals. It does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. I think what really also like sparked the light bulb, it was like, what do you mean I don't have to eat 3 meals and 2 snacks a day? What do you mean? So we've been trained and to like get up and eat breakfast, or tell our kids, eat your breakfast. It's the most important part of the meal of the day. But it was someone I was listening to that, that hunter gatherers mindset, like work for your food, and then meat tastes and butter tastes fantastic when you're hungry. So, just getting out of touch with when we're actually, it's so basic things that it's a disaster, it's dangerous, and it's, crisis. I hope that we can get somewhere with this, because it's brought up in schools. Like my daughter came home the other day, breakfast is the most important part of the meal, or most important meal of the day. Maybe, but not everyone. Like, why do we all have to eat like we're robots? We don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I was teaching, it was like, okay. And, I taught special ed. So all the meals and snacks were in the classroom, from breakfast, snacks, lunch, and then afternoon snack. And then they go home for dinner. And it was cereal or muffins, just carbs in the morning. And then, oh, it's 10 o'clock, time for snack, whether you're hungry or not. Here's your snack. Here's some more
here's
carbs.
your
Here's your cookie. Here's your Cheetos. Like,
quickie, or the Teddy Grahams.
but it said whole grain, so it was healthy because it
Yeah.
said whole grain.
On that, we gotta be careful at I think that people are gonna start putting their hands where it doesn't belong with carnivore and keto, and really misleading people. So I've been doing a lot of just poking around of what products are out there, done a lot of list products, or if someone asks me about a product, I just jump right on there and kind of look at what's in there, because there are no regulations really. I mean, there is on keto products, and now I think without any regulations on what you can put carnivore on, carnivore chocolate bar, it's just, yes, some of those can fit in certain situations, but I think where I'm going. Like, the food industry is going to probably start marketing a little bit at the more and more people who jump on board. So I think being cautious as to what products are starting to come out, just having those resources for someone to ask will
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I just tell people, if it has an ingredients list, don't
Yeah.
eat it. If it comes in a package, with the exception of pork rinds, because I've yet to be able to make my own pork rinds. That will come one day, but just not right now. But yeah, just eat food without ingredients and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get in that keto trap of, oh, it's keto brownies. Oh, it's keto. And in the beginning, I was like, well, it's keto, so it's not technically going to break, no, just stay away.
Yeah, I think you may have touched on this already in one of your sessions, but I do always get to know someone and like understand what they're capable of doing in the kitchen. I'll never forget actually a food science class I taught and how many of the students didn't know what to do with the broccoli, which is fine now, but got this knife and some people just need a little that there's no home economics anymore, so we cannot assume people know how to grill or cook. But just getting them the right equipment in the kitchen first, setting up that working with a woman who's going a little bit slowly, but it's fine because you get them set up to succeed. So yeah, it's
And
interesting.
that's the beauty of carnivore. Once you understand how to grill or whatever your situation, if you have to make it on the stovetop or, whatever, you're good to go.
Yep.
There's ingredients to worry about. You just toss your steak or burger patty or whatever on, flip it, bing, bang, boom, you're eating. And that's so
So
nice.
yeah, I love meal prep is fantastic. And I'm trying to steer the kids and my husband. My husband's a little bit more keto. He just he still eats vegetables when I buy them, but to be honest, I don't buy them too often anymore. We the kids do berries and things in that nature, but like our dinner time, like if I'm gonna make smash burgers or something, like I just divide up. We just got the half a cow, so it's in the freezer in the garage, and I just get the ground beef out. And it's funny because I've transitioned my dogs into a little bit more carnivore way of eating, so it's so easy. Like we just do the burgers and cheese. My kids eat the cheese, and the dogs have a burger, so we all have our burgers. But you know, if you just put try it, but people need to start, like, I feel like people have difficulty because, if they're kind of trying to transition, then they're not hungry enough to be eating that much meat. So, really the first 30 days, if you're not jumping straight in, like, gotta go pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
How do you feel about fasting to try to
I'm all about
eat?
fasting. And like the one man that I'm helping, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think I could go more than 4 hours without eating." Well, I kind of so when I meet with, someone, I basically get what they're doing currently just to get an idea, so it takes a while, to figure out, a week's worth of stuff, and then, and the fasting comes in discussion, like, week 2, so we meet weekly in week 2, at least just getting them from 3 meals and a snack to 2, maybe a snack, but I find that women have a little bit more difficult time with the snacking part. That's just my observations. Hope it's okay to talk about men and women, but um, um, so fasting is great. I'm a one meal a day, and it works for me around 2:30 is when I eat. Um, and then maybe a little bit of butter before bedtime with my daughter because it seems to help her sleep a little bit better when she has a little bit of fat in her stomach overnight. And but yes, I think everyone needs to do some sort of fast. Now, if you're talking about like 24-hour, 48, 72, I've never done a 72. Reason being, I've always been pretty slender, so I'm loving the mass in my muscles. So I was just reading something, I think it was in a carnivore bodybuilding thing, and it can be done, but I'm liking the mass that I'm building. So
Yeah, that's me. I'm like I don't really want to fast too much. It's like I finally got my hormones under control that
great.
I don't really want to mess with it. And I'm solid at 2 meals a day, 3 if I work out, because I want to build that, muscle mass, so that's awesome. So do you find it a lot easier to build muscle mass now?
Oh my gosh. I was telling someone, like, someone came up to me in the gym, and I usually go like when no one's there, right? So this woman came up to me and she's like, "You look strong." And I was, well, I mean, I've always been slender, and I think I've liked definition, but I could never get it because of the things that I was eating. So I can tell a day, like the day after, if I haven't had enough protein. I mean, I'm 44 years old, so my hormones are changing. Um, and I've noticed a drastic improvement in my skin, hair, nails since going carnivore. It's absolutely insane. And I wish, you reminded me I should take more before and afters, but I'm not going back to get the photos. So, just even looking back at photos last year around this time, it's a huge transition
Yeah.
in the fill, and the less saggy skin. And it's not about looks, but it helps. I like to see that muscle because it's hard work.
It is. And
Well,
I used to do like so many crunches and so much ab machine. Like I even tore my oblique one time because I was doing too much ab machine, trying to get abs. And all I had to do was lose some, fat in
well,
there.
no, actually, I was gonna say, like, I don't work out as long. I don't do as much cardio. I mean, I used to run and think I needed to be a marathon, but actually, as we age and we're going through midlife, we don't need all that. We need weights. And, someone told me lift heavy, and I was like, but I'm stuck at like 20-pound dumbbells, right? I'm up to 35. So it's insane if you don't push yourself too with the weights. I think weight bearing is so important. Excuse me.
Yeah, like before carnivore, I was doing endurance cycling and cardio was my lifeline. I lifted weights for upper body, but I didn't do anything for lower body other than ride.
Me either.
And I hated doing lower body. And so I was sore and you can't sit down. Like everything hurts when you walk after. But now
Nothing hurts.
nothing hurts. I can
I
feel
know.
I worked out. Like I can feel like there's blood to my, muscles and things. Like I can feel it, but it doesn't hurt, you know.
Yeah.
But you're right, like that my cardio has just like I just don't really have interest in it anymore. It just the lifting weights feels it more for me than the cardio anymore. So that's
Yeah. And surprisingly, it hasn't affected what I'm coaching my daughter's softball team, which, mind you, I would have never done this in the mindset I was before. It just helps you get confident with more confident in what you want to do. But I made them run the bases around twice last Wednesday for practice, and they couldn't keep up with me, and they were all so out of breath when I was like, "We need to do some work." I was like, "Don't you run in PE or?" So that was something I was going to sit on this week and like think about that. Like it was eye opening how much they could not.
it does,
Two
yeah.
2 laps, but I could. So even though I've cut down on cardio, my body's just the blood's flowing, and it really helps with that. So
When I think it's Dr. Chafee is so like adamant about sprinting and how like sprinting is
or
way more important and better for you than anything endurance related. So
yeah,
maybe you could have them sprint, between first and second or something and you know,
yeah, we
do
need that.
something. But yeah, I used to coach my boys and
So
so
fun.
it's so fun.
Yeah.
I was sick and fat then, but
Too, I just thought I get these random thoughts, but I remember I've always been a horrible bruiser. I bruise easily. Um, and it's funny, so for your viewers, we just got these 13 chickens that are 3 weeks old, and they need to get out of the garage. So we're really, we're renovating the chicken coop, and this huge board fell on me, and it clearly, scraped my leg up pretty bad. I had very minimal bruising. And for me, I'm like, this is just fantastic. Like every aspect of my life has changed.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just kind of like this feeling like you want people to know and try. Not just know, but try it out, give it a shot. It's just
yeah.
it's curing, like we treat disease in this loving country, but we need to start looking at getting rid of some of it. So
Yeah. I've had so many people just come down on it and, being like, carnivore doesn't cure everything in your life. I'm like, no, it doesn't cure everything in your life, but it makes your life so much more livable. It just, stress isn't daunting anymore. All things, I would have never done this before carnivore. I was always behind the camera. So being in front of the camera was not, I didn't even like getting my own picture taken by my husband, so it's not something I would have done. But when you have that confidence and you feel good and you have a clear mind and you have the clear carnivore eyes and all that, I think it just opens up the world to you even more. And it does help you in ways that you don't realize, you just don't realize. So it's,
yep. I would say the two most, I would say the mental clarity and the inflammation that's totally gone is my biggest win from this. But that mental clarity, it's like, wow, like things just that I've always thought like I was just the weird one now seem to make sense. It's all just connected. So it's good stuff.
it's
Excited
true.
to see where it goes, hopefully. But
Me too. Me too. Well, thank you, Carrie, so much for coming on and telling us your story. It was awesome. And I love, I know I say this all the time in the past, like every time I get to interview somebody, I'm like, oh, new best friend.
feels that way. Yep.
It does. And, I know you're out in Texas and I can't wait to come out and see you and see those chickens. And
Take away my eggs. I'll just get some chickens.
Yeah.
That's how confident I am, right? I can do it. I don't know. I'm from the city of Chicago, and here I am sitting in Texas with some backyard chickens with a huge space. Yeah, it's great.
You never know what's going to happen in life.
You never know.
You never know.
Thanks, Janice.
Thank you, Carrie, and come and visit us again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.